And now I apologize for not connecting with you beforehand, but is Jim Dunham here? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Jane. Is Melanie McLaughlin here, advocate for Jimmy Teta? Okay, perfect. Please welcome Melanie. Oh, what a beautiful plaque.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today and for the stories that were shared and the advocates that are here. I am an advocate, family advocate, survivor advocate, and also a childhood friend of a boy who went missing in Massachusetts in 1976. I was with him the day he vanished, Andy Puglisi. He was 10 years old, I was 9. His story has stayed with me ever since, and I've been an advocate for missing children and murdered children in Massachusetts primarily, or across the country as well, but primarily from the 1970s. Andy disappeared in 1976. It's a trauma that Andy's family and all that loved Andy and knew Andy continue to live with to this day. As I started to research Andy's case, I made a promise to him when I was 9 years old, when the search was called off after 6 days, that when I grew up I would try to find him. It was a very naive promise. But fast forward 30 plus years, and I did just that and started working with others in trying to find Andy. As I started to search for Andy, I made a documentary about him that was on HBO and got a lot of attention, which was great because it was able to bring attention to other cases. And unfortunately, what I found was that Andy is one of dozens of children who went missing or were found murdered in the 1970s in Massachusetts. I think if you heard this story repeated across the country in every state, it would be the same. Dozens of people have gone missing over the years or are murdered, and their cases are just lost over time. Especially cases like James Teta. Jimmy was 15 years old. Jimmy was from Massachusetts, but his body was found in New Hampshire. And so perpetrators know, frankly, when they can confuse boundary lines in law enforcement, it makes it so much easier to not get the case solved because it's so hard with law enforcement collaborating across states. Jimmy disappeared in August of 1973. That's 53 years ago, this August 25th. I made a podcast a year or so ago interviewing a number of these families, and I interviewed Jimmy's sister, Lauren. Lauren still lives every day missing her brother, and every day she cries for Jimmy, and she shared with us so amazingly her story. And as she shared with us, it was as vivid as though it happened yesterday. And part of the issue is that, again, the family is in Massachusetts, the case happened in New Hampshire, and it's 53 years old. But in everybody else's mind, Jimmy is still 15, and he's still that little boy that went missing and that was found just a few days later, brutally murdered on the side of the road in Ridge, New Hampshire. And those families, like Morris family, like other families that are across states, it almost feels like you have no home because you're in your stories in both states or multiple states, or your families in both states or multiple states, and you have no one sort of representation. So it's so critical to have this group and to know that there are others outside of the state that can be involved, that were part of the state when this crime happened, and it's really important. And one of the things I just want to mention is about family advocacy and caregiver advocacy and building relationships. This is about building relationships. We've been working on Andy's case for over 40 years at this point, and we built relationships with law enforcement, we built relationship with forensic anthropologists, we've built relationships with colleges, and just like the previous speaker was saying, it is about funding. It is about funding and where you can get the money to do these things. Light the Way has done a tremendous job bringing attention to these cases. I challenge the media.
Yes!
I challenge the media that's here today. Your responsibility is also to bring attention to these cases. Thank you so much for being here and standing out in that hot sun. But after today is over, please follow up with the families, profile one of their stories, get their news out there, and ask, what is the data? Why are things not being solved? Because it really does come down to money. And then for the elected officials that are out there, thank you so much for the senator that's here today. And I challenge all of you that are here today that are from New Hampshire, and even those who aren't, next year I'm going to invite the representative that covers Ringe, New Hampshire, where Jimmy was found, and I'm going to ask them to come with me next year. And I'm going to encourage each of you to do the same. Ask your representative or your senator to come with you, because they're the ones who have the power in that house. And they're the ones that have the vote on the budget. And those are the people that you really have to pressure. The ones that are standing out here today, I saw you last year as well. You're standing out there in a hot sun. You're listening to people angry, passionate, tired about, their real lives and what's happened with them. And we so do appreciate you. And we also know that, unfortunately, you have very little power. And so really, it's about figuring out who has the power to change the systems, because it is systemic failure. And I'm just grateful that Jimmy's family offered me the opportunity to speak on his behalf today. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Now I'd like to invite up an advocate for Patrick McCarthy.
Good afternoon. I've been coming to these coalitions for 3 years, and this book has just been produced by the grandparents and the mother of Patrick McCarthy, a case in 2003. He was murdered, and it was just presented as a hypothermic case, and they didn't get the Freedom of Information Act presented. Took the grandparent 23 years to produce this book, which backs every single documented detail that the Governor Ayotte just kept putting it aside, denying it. The book, in so many cases, prove in our belief that she was doing her job. So on behalf of Patrick's family, I'll give you a quick summary. The book takes the readers through a tumultuous journey, questioning the integrity of the investigation, calling for a proper examination of the evidence before the grand jury. Deanna Murray's persistent fight against the Department of Injustice of New Hampshire, the medical examiner's office, the state police, and the FBI unfolds as a scathing critique of the justice system. They did find Patrick, but he was murdered. It was covered up. And this whole book, it's a foot thick. You can get it online at Amazon or Barnes & Nobles, and you'll take a look for yourself. Make your own decisions. But this book commands change in the Department of Justice. So thank you on behalf of Deanne Murray, the mother, and the grandfather, Jim Murray. Let's see some change in the system.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, victim advocate to many, Shannon.
Good afternoon, cherished families, steadfast advocates, and compassionate community members. My family knows the searing pain of losing a loved one to murder. On June 20th, 1997, my cousin Patrick Michael was killed with a baseball bat in a Canterbury, New Hampshire sand pit. It took 13 years for our family to see justice. My great-nephew, Sean D. Sylvester Jr., also known as S.J. or Jr., born November 23, 2014 in Laconia, was taken from us on November 15, 2015 by a monster. S.J. and his father remain forever in our hearts. Thank you for gathering here in Concord to honor the 130 families of the missing and murdered, and to support Jane Borowski, whose attempted murder remains unsolved. Today, I'd like to amplify the voices of witnesses, families, friends, and communities too often ignored or mistreated in the pursuit of justice. Let me share a few stories of lives stolen by tragedy. Kathy Glotty, only 13, was last seen in New Hampshire on November 21st, 1971, buying candy. The next day, her body was found in the woods, raped, strangled, beaten, and run over. 54 years later, her suspected killer, Kenneth Bonifant, never being charged for the murder of Kathy, passed away in 2020. Kathy's sister Karen writes in her book, quote, "Years have slipped by with no arrest, despite detectives claiming they were this close. It's peculiar how time slips away. One day I woke up and realized years had gone by and still no one had been charged with Kathy's murder. The detective held his fingers up this close. We're this close. But the window of hope began to close once again, slowly and painfully. Despite detectives claiming they were hot on the trail, needing one more thing to fall into place, the Glotty family has been left hanging, clinging to morsels of hope with no closure. The Glotty's family efforts helped to lead the passage of House Bill 690, which established the first New Hampshire cold case unit, signed into law by Governor Lynch in 2009. Maura Murray, a 21-year-old nursing student, vanished on February 9, 2004, after a car crash in Route 112, Haverhill, New Hampshire. Known for her intelligence, love of running, and dream of becoming a nurse, she was last seen near her car. Police arrived minutes later, and she was gone. 21 years later, Maura is still missing, and her case is still unsolved. The Murray family has endured torture of ambiguous loss. Their relentless pursuit to find answers has touched the hearts of everyone here today. We feel their pain, and I pray that the Murray family gets long overdue answers and action from the state of New Hampshire. Trish Haynes, 26. Trish was last heard from on May 17, 2018. She had returned to Grafton, New Hampshire after fleeing an abusive relationship. Trish was offered a place to stay in Grafton, and after she moved in, Trish's contact with her family dwindled. Eventually, Trish stopped contacting her family and could not be reached. In January of 2019, Trish's family was finally informed that the police had pulled a washer-dryer unit out of Grants Pond, and it contained Trish's remains. Her death ruled a homicide. Despite her family's belief in Douglas and Ashley Smith being her killer, no arrests have been made. Her family endures the torment of justice denied. These women were vibrant, loved, irreplaceable, left wounds we carry together. I also stand here today to advocate for a witness. When he was 12 years old, he thought he saw an act of kindness, someone offering a ride to a person in need. 17 years later, in 2021, reminiscing with his family, he realized his memory was tied to a disappearance. The cold case unit was contacted, but instead of being heard, he was interrogated at his workplace as if he were a suspect. After persistent emails, a detective and the Assistant Attorney General told his advocate that he should focus on his mental health, a dismissive response that silenced his courage. This double injustice, not only facing suspicion, but also being deflected with misplaced concern, silenced a voice willing to help. The dismissal of this young witness and the unheeded knowledge of families, communities, like in Trish's, Kathy's, and many other cases reveals a broken system. Investigators stall, resources dwindle, and biases marginalize cases. Telling a witness to focus on their mental health instead of pursuing their account isn't support, it's deflection. The Glotty family and the community in Franklin believe Ken Bonifant's guilt. The Haynes family believe Douglas and Ashley Smith murdered Trish. This should prompt action, not inaction. We are here to say enough. To the witness who at 12 thought he witnessed a good deed only to realize what he witnessed was tied to a missing person, to the families and communities whose voices are ignored, we hear you. We believe you. Your courage drives us. As the poet Audre Lorde said, your silence will not protect you. Let us break the silence. For Maura, Kathy, Trish, and all the missing and murdered in New Hampshire, we fight for a future where justice is not denied and every voice is valued. Let their names, Maura Murray, Kathy Glotty, Trish Hayes, and all the missing and murdered, be a rally cry for change. Thank you for standing with us, for listening, and being a voice for the voiceless.
Thank you, Shannon. And now we do have a bit of time. Are there any other families or victim advocates that would like to come up and speak? Please come on up. Awesome.
work this stuff.
So you just speak right into that one and
Alright.
stand right around here so we can capture it right there. Thank you, sir.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tom Robert. My sister Denise Robert was murdered about 10 years ago today. I did not come here today with the intention of speaking. I don't have any prepared statements, but I'm listening to people. I'm getting a better idea of what's going on here, and I'm really here to offer a suggestion, or at least based on my own experiences. Back in the 90s, I was involved with Manchester city government. One of my focuses was to look at the bureaucracy as it was and make changes. We've made some successes. We've actually done things like that, and I'd like to possibly turn that focus on this process. I've heard some constructive things. About a year ago, I sat with Ken Dion, then candidate Kelly Ayotte for governor, and Ken Dion actually proposed some reasonable perspectives or possible solutions. I've not heard any sort of yes or no from the governor's office or even the state legislature. But I find, in my experience, working with bureaucracies can be punishing to people who oppose it. Bureaucracies can be very difficult to change. There's a lot of different forces that are at play. But where I found where we've had the most success is not to allow the system to investigate itself. I mean, I thank the governor, I thank the folks that were involved in the decision to hire more people. But in my experience, doing that is a Band-Aid. It's just a pacifier. I don't think, generally, real good change doesn't come from it. My success, or my successes, and you can define success in any way that you want, and I know people do, but bringing people in from the outside, having people from the outside look at the process, look at the agencies. We're talking 2 agencies. In my sister's case, it's Manchester Police Department, and it's also the folks at the Attorney General's office. I don't know, personally, I don't know how things work at the Manchester Police Department. I've had some experience in dealing with the union. I've had some experience in dealing with the commissioners. I've had some experience dealing with the aldermen and the mayor. And there's all kinds of reasons to say no or do things in a way that aren't really productive. The outside consultants, and you've got to choose these people correctly. I've always found, making sure that they have the opportunity to do their homework, have always come in with probably the most effective responses to this stuff. Now, outside consultants, people, the first thing that I hear come up is that it costs money. Yeah, people don't work for anything, all right? But in my experience, taxes, as a politician, taxes is an issue. But if you tell people that you're spending their money for a good reason, a good productive reason, they're great with it. If you're just gonna throw money at a problem and nothing really comes of it, then I think that's when people get upset. So if I could add anything positive here to the discussion, was just to call on the folks in the state of New Hampshire, the powers that be, the folks in Manchester, the police commission, the board of mayor and aldermen, to do some research and commission a study into the process of how this all works. Not only, it shouldn't necessarily apply to our case that we're talking now, every case. There's different constituencies, given time, overwhelm the process and they can smother it. We've got to root that out. We've got to focus on the result. And I personally, I just think that's the best way to go. Just my 2 cents, folks.
Thank you. Do we have any other family or victim advocates that would like to come up and speak?
We got one back there.
Nope. Sorry. Come on up. Yeah.
I don't have a formal thing prepared at all. That's
Hold up
okay.
for you.
You're absolutely fine.
Hello.
And stand up.
My name's Alexis Campagna. I am the niece of Diane Campagna, who, along with her best friend, Anne Sarah Dallas, was murdered in 1973. She was last seen on July 12th, 1973, going to Hampton Beach with her friend, and she was missing for several months before her and Anne's bodies were found in the fall, on September 29th, 1973. It's been several years since the Attorney Generals and the Cold Case Unit have touched my aunt's case. I believe 2006 was the last time that it was looked at actively. My grandparents, Dorothy and Marcel, died not knowing who did this to their daughter. We grew up in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and my dad still lives there. And it's believed amongst the town that everyone knows who did it, but no one comes forward and gives enough information to prosecute anybody for these murders. So it's very difficult to exist in that house where Diane once lived, in a town where this person who has been named in the late detective's book as being the one responsible is still living amongst us, possibly, and just living their life while my family's life was ruined. My dad is riddled with anxiety. My dad can't be here doing this advocacy work because it's just too hard. So I never got to know my Aunt Diane or her friend Anne, but I am the family member that's doing the best to try and keep their story out there and names in the news and being covered. I will say that I have tried to get the Cold Case Unit to look at their case again. I did meet with them last year. I originally started emailing them in 2022, trying to get a meeting. When I finally was able to get a meeting, I was very disappointed. I understand, like many of you have said, that these cases are active investigations and they can't share any information or talk to you really about anything because it's an ongoing investigation. And they said that there was someone assigned to my aunt's case, but that person hadn't done anything with my aunt's case since 2006. So I was confused as to how is there someone assigned to her case if they haven't touched it since 2006. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I asked if that detective or the person assigned would be able to be at that meeting with the prosecutor and victim advocate and myself, and I showed up with the closest thing my family will ever get to having a victim impact statement read, because we never got a day in court. My grandparents never got to talk about their daughter. So I made something and brought it to be read, and I was hoping to have that moment with the detective to try and just convey that she does still have family out there that loves her and misses her and wants to see justice for her. And the detective that was assigned to my aunt's case was not there. They didn't tell me that he wasn't going to be able to make it. I showed up really hoping to be able to meet with him, and it was some other detective that was not assigned to Diane's case, was not actively working on it, just someone to like fill the spot, because I had requested a meeting, and I was just so disheartened. And if if they had messaged me and been like, hey, so-and-so's not able to be here today. Can we reschedule? I would have even appreciated that, but to not even have the detective who was assigned to my aunt's case there to talk with me and just like a sub-in really sucked. This is the picture that everyone sees when you see my aunt's case on the Cold Case Unit's website and online. This is a picture from her yearbook at Merrimack High. But when I met with them, I brought her baby pictures. I brought her pictures of playing at Disney with her family and their trip to the Grand Canyon. And I tried to humanize Diane a little bit more, because this picture is the only thing that people see, but she was a beautiful little girl, and her and Anne were brutally murdered and left in the woods to rot for months before anyone found them. And my dad spent that summer going to random house parties all over southern New Hampshire with his dad looking for his sister. And he is a changed person because of this. And there's really been no communication or contact or anything. And I would just, as the last thing I'd like to say is that I know there's always improvements with DNA testing and things that they can try to do. It's been 52 years, and because of the way their bodies are found, they're not optimistic about DNA being able to be tested off her clothing and stuff. We have nothing from Diane, nothing. My grandmother, that was how she coped, was she got rid of everything because she just couldn't look at it. So I asked for some of her personal belongings back, and I was denied them because it's an ongoing investigation and, you know, something might be able to be done in the future, but, you know, they sat in the woods from July to September in the heat, in the elements. It's been 52 years. It's been since 2006 that anything has been touched from the evidence. If you're not going to do anything with it, and the family wants it, give it back. We don't have anything to remember Diane. So thank you for listening to me. I will continue to try to advocate for my family and my aunt's murder to be solved. It's an old case. I'm not optimistic, but I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to do it for my dad and for my grandparents, because they deserve that.
Nice job. Nice.
Thank you so much, everyone, for speaking and for sharing your stories and bringing light to all of these cases. One last case I would like to mention is an unsolved cold case from 2010. Lynn Brennan. She leaves behind 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Let's just not forget her either. Her advocate is here today. So I told her that I would make sure and mention her name. So as we wrap up the family remarks section of today's agenda, I am going to pass the mic off to the Gabby Petito Foundation. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Of course, thank you. Thank you for having us here. I could say a lot after listening to all that, but I'm going to stick to my script because I don't want to say anything that I'll regret. We're not residents of New Hampshire, but we stand with these families. Our daughter was found. We know who her killer was. We have resolution. But we're here in New Hampshire to stand with the families of the missing and murdered, those whose cases remain unsolved. These victims deserve respect, compassion, and support. More than 130 cold cases ranging from disappearances to murders still weigh heavily on families in this state. Families like Maura Murray. Maura has been missing since 2004. Victims like Trish Haynes, whose remains were found in 2018. Or decades-old cases like Jane Borowski's near-fatal attack. These stories remain unsolved. Affected families have voiced frustration over stalled communication and lack of transparency from the investigators. Many say their loved ones have been put in a file cabinet to collect dust, and they're demanding justice, not silence. Every life matters, every story must be heard. Let's keep their voices alive and just until justice is done. And I ask any law enforcement that's here today, what if it was your loved one? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. But in reality, none of us should be here today. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be still searching for our missing loved ones or for the persons who took the lives of our loved ones. It was said earlier that this is a club that you don't want to be in because once you're in it, you can't get out. And no truer statement has ever been said. We were lucky. We found resolution. We found our daughter. Our daughter received an insane amount of media attention that so many other families do not get. In reality, from the time we were able to report her missing to finding her body was 8 days. And I can tell you those 8 days felt like an eternity. So to stand here with these families that have been searching for months, years, with no answers, their strength and courage and determination is awe-inspiring. And I don't know if I would have had that same amount of courage that they're all displaying today. But this goes beyond today and this event today. Their words cannot stop at the front steps of that building. I'm asking for the folks here in charge to continue and carry their voices inside, because as my wife said, what if this was your loved one? And for the media that was so gracious to come here, tell the stories beyond today. Keep sharing their stories to the others who couldn't be here today. You have that power and that ability to help these families find the answers they so desperately need. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for your support.
Thank you both. I told you we had a full agenda today. And so now, past years, we have actually only had remarks from the coalition and from family advocates and from victim advocates, but this year, as you saw how we kicked it off with the proclamation read, thank you, Victoria Sullivan, we actually do have some legislators that would like to speak today. So first, I would like to introduce Representative James Spillane. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm going to start by saying that on my way up here, I got a text from Brian Cole representing Manchester. Some of these cases took place there, and he's sorry he couldn't be here now. He's running for CD1 now and had a conflict in his agenda. But let me start with my statement here. So I'm James Spillane. I'm serving my 6th term in the New Hampshire House of Representatives, and currently I'm the chairman of Fish and Game and Marine Resources Committee. But today, I stand before you not as a lawmaker, but as a fellow Granite Stater. One who believes that justice should not be a luxury or a lottery, but a promise. A promise to be honored no matter how long it takes. There's currently more than 130 unresolved homicide and missing person cases in New Hampshire. These aren't numbers, these are people. They're brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, parents, and friends. And behind every case is a family. Families like John Roberts, still waiting for answers after the murder of his sister Denise in Manchester in 2015. Denise was simply out for a walk in a quiet neighborhood. She never came home. Nearly a decade later, no one has been held accountable for that. And sadly, hers is not an isolated case. This David Oldham, who was shot outside his home in Columbia in 2015, his case remains open, and his family still searches for truth. There's Mindy West, whose body was found tied to a tree in Manchester back in 1998. Her family's waited over 25 years for someone to answer what happened to her. Roberta Bobby Miller was shot and killed in her own home in Guilford in 2010. Her family continues to feel left behind by a system that seems to have gone quiet on her. We cannot forget Sonia Moore, just 14 years old, who vanished from a friend's house and was found dead in a pond in 1989. Her case has faded from the headlines, but not from the hearts of those who loved her. These are just a few of the many names that cry out from the shadows of our justice system. If I tried to go through all 130, we'd be here all night. And behind them are families who've waited for years and sometimes decades for even the most basic answers to their questions. I want to say clearly to each and every one of you here today, I see you, I hear you, and I stand with you. And while I cannot promise specific legislation today, what I can promise is this: where I can help to remove red tape and break through bureaucratic dead ends, or shine a light in areas where the system has grown complacent, I will. I believe government should never be an obstacle to justice. If it is, we've failed our most basic duty. You, who are here today, have already shown extraordinary courage by standing here and by refusing to be forgotten. And by refusing to let your loved ones be forgotten. And it's that courage that should guide us today, not silence, not delay, and certainly not resignation. We have a cold case unit for a reason. And it should not be symbolic. It must be active, resourced, and responsive. Families deserve communication. They deserve clarity. And they deserve the dignity of knowing that someone, anyone at all, is still looking. The good news that I can give you today is that the AG's office has added 2 new full-time investigators to the cold case, and that started this year. That's the only good news I can give you.
Do better. They can do better. Agreed.
We can, and we will. But your stories matter, your pain matters, and your persistence is what keeps us hoping that we can get these changes made. If nothing else, let this day serve now as a reminder to everyone that's here today and everyone across the state that the pursuit of justice does not have an expiration date. Not here, not in New Hampshire. We will make the changes necessary. We have opened the door, but I can't say we've done more than open the door. And I'm sorry for that. But thank you all for allowing me to share this moment with you, and thank you for your strength today.
Thank you so much. And now, is Senator Tara Reardon here? I don't believe so. Tara. Okay, so we will move on. We also have Chris Knowles, who is the chief of the cold case unit, who is here and present and would like to add some remarks. Please welcome Chris. Put your head.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name again is Chris Knowles. I'm the chief of the cold case unit for the state of New Hampshire. And I'm here today primarily to do one thing, and that's listen. Oh. So I'm here primarily to do one thing today, and that's listen. So thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing for those of you that have. I can tell you that as a father, as a husband, as a son, and as a brother, I often think, especially in this line of work, about what it would mean to lose someone that I love. And live each day not knowing what happened. And that thought is unbearable for me and many of us in my unit. And I can't begin to imagine the pain and suffering that so many families carry, not just from the loss, but from the silence that follows. And that's why we do this work. That's why we continue to show up case after case and day after day. Every life lost, every family, every loved one, every friend deserves to be heard. And the people that committed these heinous crimes deserve to be held accountable. I'm here today to listen, but I also want to talk about the nature of our work. What you see publicly in arrest and identification, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface, there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of hours of unseen effort. It's our team rereading a case for the 10th time, re-interviewing witnesses, chasing down leads, submitting a single piece of evidence for a new type of forensic testing, and then waiting patiently for months, sometimes years, for the results. Because these cases are active and sensitive investigations, we can't share the details of our daily work. But please know this: what can be perceived as public silence should not be interpreted for us being idle. It's a necessary quiet that allows us to do the work that's required to bring answers to light. Your cases are never collecting dust in some filing cabinet or on a shelf. They are active, they are ongoing, they are important. They're important cases. Each life lost, each case that we touch is important. And they're always on our minds. At the Cold Case Unit, we know that no words can undo the past. No words can undo the suffering. But we also know that action, persistence, and compassion can bring justice closer. Over the past year, we've worked and we've taken meaningful steps in that effort. We've seen arrests in the 2003 Milford homicide, the 2016 Conway homicide investigations. We've identified the remains in cases dating back to 1974, finally restoring names to those who previously had none. We've solved the rape and murder of a case in our state, and we've importantly expanded our unit. None of this progress would be possible without unwavering support from our state's leadership. Governor Kelly Ayotte herself, a former attorney general, a former murder prosecutor. She's not only secured and protected the Cold Case Unit funding during a difficult budget cycle, she's secured new funding to grow it. Attorney General John Formella has also been a consistent advocate and support, ensuring that we have the resources and direction needed to do this work with a purpose. That investment is already strengthening the unit. For the first time, we have 2 dedicated, full-time investigators with our unit, dedicated to cold case work.
You got 1 full-time, 1 part-time. Investigators, you have 1 full-time, 1 part-time. You just said 2 full-time. You have 1 full-time, 1 part-time.
Thank you. Again, we have 2 full-time investigators with a cold case unit.
Not according to the article in the newspaper.
We have Todd Flanagan, a longtime New Hampshire detective, a DOJ leader with a history of solving cold cases and working on the most difficult cases in our state. We also have Bruce Formany, a law enforcement veteran with over 40 years of experience, including specialized experience in cold case work. Again, I'm here to listen, but I also want to share the work that we're doing. Those 2 investigators joined our embedded colleagues from the New Hampshire State Police, and together we work across agencies, not only in this state, but with federal partners. We work with our partners from Manchester. We work with our partners from the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Lab. We work with the state's Office of Victim Witness Assistance, drawing on additional resources and federal resources as each case demands. And this collaborative and flexible structure is core to how we move cases forward. We also continue to embrace advances in forensic tools, from forensic genealogy to state-of-the-art and new DNA analysis that's available in our state. And we do all of this with trauma-informed approach that prioritizes both the investigation but all of you that are present today, the people. I'm proud to work alongside Assistant Attorney General Rachel Harrington, who's been a vital part of our unit since 2019. Rachel has 2 decades of experience as a prosecutor, 2 decades of experience prosecuting some of the most challenging cases in our state. She brings to the unit both her experience, but also her deep compassion for this work. By definition, a cold case homicide is a case that's more than 5 years old, remains unresolved, and is no longer under active investigation due to limited resources. But make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, just because a case is cold does not mean it's closed, not collecting dust, and it has never meant that the case is forgotten. It means waiting for someone to come forward, waiting for science to catch up, waiting for someone to look again. It also means taking advantage of developments, bringing new eyes with different experience for what can be done to what may have done in the past and what may have been cloudy. And that's what we do. Day in and day out, we look again, and we don't stop, and we won't stop. The progress of the past year reflects more than a series of outcomes. It reflects our commitment to these cases and our commitment to the people involved in these cases. It reflects the seriousness of which this work is treated, not just by the cold case unit, but by leaders at every level of state government. And most importantly, it reflects hope. And so my plea to the public is that if you have information on any of these cases, no matter how small you think it may be, come forward. One detail can open the door, and one voice can shift the status of a case. Come forward. Thank you. We have a cold case unit hotline. That number is 1-800-525-5555. Again, that's 1-800-525-5555. Come forward. We also have an email hotline, a hotline email. That's coldcaseunit@dos.nh.gov. And you can visit us on our updated website that's hosted by the DOJ. There's a list of victims of our cases. There's also a way to submit tips on that website. I'm here to listen and to remind everyone that while these cases are cold, while every case represents an unsolved life that was cut short and a family that's waiting, there is still hope. And we are here to say, I am here to say, that we see you, that we hear you, and that we are not going to give up. Not now and not ever. Thank you.
For the record, just want to set the record straight. You can look up Governor Ayott's statement when she's expanding the whole case. It's one full-time investigator and one full-time temporary investigator. So it's not two full-time investigators. One full-time investigator, one full-time temporary investigator. Please look that up. Thank you.
Fact check. Thank you. Fact check. Thank you. And thank you to all the legislators, all the officials that have attended here today, that have listened, that have participated in this gathering. Jane, do you have a rebuttal before I close off things?
Get it, Jane, get it, yeah. You go, girl.
My name's Jane. I spoke earlier. I was a victim. Most believe that I was a victim of a serial killer. I survived. want to try and be so nice about this, but I have a hard time. I want to thank you guys for being here, especially you. But you're standing here defending a cold case unit that has not solved any cases in 3 years. And you're talking to victims' families here that are still waiting and have waited for years to hear that their cases are solved. But yet you're standing there and defending what you claim that you guys are doing, but you're not solving cases. That's what we are standing here wanting, is a resolution to cases that are unsolved. I think that what you came up here and did, and all the stuff that you just said, defending your department, was an insult to every single victim's family standing here waiting for answers to, they're waiting to hear resolution to their loved ones' cases. But yet you're standing up here defending a department that is not solving these cold cases. And I think that was very rude, and I think it was, I don't think that you're listening to the families that stood up here today wanting answers to their families' unsolved cases. I don't think that you were listening. We did not need to hear you defend the department that has solved not one case in the cold case unit in 3 years. I just don't understand how you could defend that. And we did not need you to come up here to defend that. We needed you to come up here and admit that there is an issue, that you guys can do better, that you should do better for these families. This is not what we needed you to hear. We needed to hear from you. That everything that you are doing, all the stuff that you claim that these cases are being solved. Every single one of these people standing here have loved ones that have cases that have not been solved. So how can you defend that? We need to hear what you are going to do to make these cases progress with the investigations, and that they're going to be solved, and that there's going to be answers one day for these families. That's what we needed to hear. We did not need to hear how much you have done or what has been solved. You are amongst people that have family members and their cases are unsolved and have been for years. So to stand up here and defend a department that has not solved cases in 3 years, I think was disrespectful to every single family member standing here holding signs and pictures of their loved ones that are no longer here. I think it is disrespectful, and they did not need to hear that.
So in closing, we do appreciate each and every one of you for attending today. All of the families, all of the advocates, everyone who spoke, everyone who supports, all of the media that attended, all of the podcasts that attend. I see you over there. I see you guys. Shout out. We would not be able to amplify our message or our voices if you did not. So we appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to join our distribution list for the New Hampshire Coalition of Families of the Missing and Murdered, there is a sign-up sheet. Make sure that your email is actually on that list. And to all families, make sure that you are contacting the AG's office and the cold case unit to make sure that you are setting up your individual meetings about your cases, about your loved ones' unresolved cases. Make sure that you do that for you. They will set up meetings. They will meet with you. Thank you all for attending today.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast to hear all future episodes. Click into our link tree too in the episode description to find and follow us on all our social medias. And it also links to our website, invisible-tears.com, where you can keep current on any events that may be coming up, read more about Jane and the team, and read more about all the Connecticut River Valley unsolved cases. Evil may exist in this world, but we will not let it win. See you next episode.